Welcome back, everyone, to the W Sports Podcast Live. It is Sunday evening, which means Sports World, get ready because the W Sports Podcast is back at it with all your updates for the wildest NFL free agency period that we've ever seen, in my opinion. But also, we have NCAA tournament bracket coming up and then some more baseball news. So you stick with us, stick with myself, Jimothy, and our co-host, the best in the business, Tubby, because we're getting after it today. So, Tubby, welcome back to the show.
What is up? Yeah, the madness is starting. This weekend was a wild weekend for college basketball.
Yeah, already some buzzer beaters that sends someone to the next round or wins the championship. Yale, obviously, that was a big one over Brown.
Yeah.
But they're not the only one. So it's a pretty exciting time to be a baseball fan or a sports fan because we also have baseball season, which this week, because of the series in Korea, I believe, South Korea, right?
Yeah, South Korea.
Baseball season officially kicks off. We're in a fantasy baseball league that we draft this week too because, I just thought I'd have to lose to yet something else. So last time we did a fantasy baseball draft, I invited you to the league, and then you and I think it was your dad, you guys just dominated. I checked out with you the year because my team was so bad.
It's been a few years since I've played fantasy baseball, so we'll see if we still have it or not. But,
Same.
Yeah.
But I was like, I really wanted to this year. Then I was like, oh, there's still 2 spots left. And I was like, I wonder if Tubby wants one. And I was like, I almost didn't because I was like, the last time he destroyed me. Anyway, it's fine. So, Tubby, real quick before we jump into the news, where can people find the W Sports Podcast around the World Wide Web?
I mean, Instagram, X, or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Threads, Facebook, YouTube. And then if you're looking streaming wise, pretty much any major streaming platform you can think of, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Google. I mean, just about anything you can think of where to find podcasts, and some obscure ones I don't even know, you can find us there.
Just Google the W Sports Podcast, and you'll probably find us whatever way is best for you, even if it's YouTube, which, again, we had some more subscribers this week. So thank you guys so much for the support. It's making this a ton of fun. I had some new people that I met, and they're like, you got a podcast? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, asked us what we talked about, and they got excited to just check it out. And I said, hey, we have a motto. You just got to listen. We're not always right, but we're never wrong, So here we are.
Yeah, I mean, just gotta listen.
That's it. So let's hit. We don't have a whole lot to go in the world of baseball this week, especially compared to last week, but we do have some big news. Is this positive for the Yankees and Garrett Cole looking at this year? And there's no timetable for him coming back, but it's not going to be Tommy John surgery, at least at the moment. So,
I mean, there's a bright spot and a very big stain for them right now. I mean, you said it. No timetable, essentially. First they're saying 1 to 2 months, and now they're like, oh, his elbow's inflamed, he can't throw for 3 to 4 weeks, so it could prolong a little bit longer. But at least for them, it's not a season ending, because if it was season ending, man, you could almost, for me, write them off, because it sounds like they said, we're not in on Snell, we're not in on Jordan Montgomery. They had offers out for Cease and for Burns before he got traded to the Orioles, but both teams were wanting Spencer Jones, and they said, off the table, we're not trading Spencer Jones. Mm-hmm. And so you lose Garrett Cole. I mean, even a couple months, and we don't even know if it is just a couple months. It could be longer, because obviously it doesn't sound a whole lot of optimism, because you went through a lot of alleys to get to this determination, because there was wonders, is there a small tear in the UCL that we just can't really see a whole lot? And I mean, I think they went through 3 or 4 different, specialists. So it's still not out of the woods, but at least the conclusion right now is no Tommy John, and he should be back at some point this year.
Yeah, and we're to the point now where when you say not interested in Jordan Montgomery or Blake Snell, it's a big deal because, like I said, baseball season starts this week overall, and then for most teams here in the next couple of days, 10 days. So they still don't have a home. Scott Boras, what are we doing? Get these guys on a team because they are too good. Jordan Montgomery is a classic vintage pitcher. Get him out there so he's on a team. But not surprised the Yankees aren't interested in him. They were willing to trade him for Harrison Bader, and Bader's now a Met. So a lot of crazy things happen in the baseball world. The Other thing I was going to bring up before we jump into baseball, there was history made in Kansas City. Did you know that this week?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
Thanks to your wife.
Thanks to yeah. So if you happen to follow my wife on social media, you would have seen that history was made not because of her, but she's a part of making history with the first ever built for women's sports stadium. Casey Current, the soccer team, opened up their brand new stadium right near downtown. And my wife just happens to be one of their audio people who helps make all the sound and stuff like that happen when you're in the stadium. So if you're hearing it, you're enjoying it, part of the atmosphere, that's her. So it was pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's the first one. So hopefully it's the first of many for,
Yeah.
because especially women's soccer. I mean, it's a big deal in the United States. The women's U.S. soccer team is, always number one, number two in the whole world. So I think for them to finally get their own stadium's not like, oh well, we're having to rent out this stadium from someone else. Sporting KC or whatever there in Kansas City, that now they have their own home and not having to try to work schedules with other leagues.
Well, and the crowd was electric. I mean, it was of course a sellout. I think that I don't remember the exact name, but I bet that there was actually over a sellout with all the people that were there. Patrick Mahomes, obviously his wife Brittany were there, massive supporters, tons of people, very excited about it. And here's the thing, couple things. Number one, was it feels like right now that will give them a very good home field advantage come throughout this season, just because of the energy, the excitement. I think even some of the other teams are like, man, we can't wait to come back here because of what it felt like to be in front of fans like this, people who were so engaged with the game. Didn't hurt. I mean, it was 5-1 at one point, and then all of a sudden it was 5-4. I mean, it was wild how that game just, if you're watching it on ABC, it was a really good game. And I think that girl come from Malawi. Did you watch any of the game? She got substituted in like the 68th minute, came in, had 2 assists, like so fast. She's faster than anybody else. I don't know how she's not starting. She was super impressive. I mean, the team itself is pretty good, but I was like, wow. So pretty exciting. And I will say, here's the second thing. Whenever here right now in Kansas City, they're trying to have a bill out there for a downtown stadium and renovations to Arrowhead. Now, if you didn't know, Arrowhead for the last 2 years has been at the bottom or right next to the bottom as far as the facilities go. The stadium is old, but the stadium is awesome. It has a lot of history, so they want to make some updates to it. So there's obviously all the political side is happening right now, but also there's the nostalgia of having a baseball stadium where it's been since it was first built, which is just outside downtown, about 5 miles. And they really, really want to put it downtown. That's where the Royals want it. That's where I want it. And the KC Current yesterday gave great momentum, hopefully for people to see the energy that comes from something like that. Yesterday, all weekend long, KC Current, that teal everywhere, that navy blue everywhere. People were wearing it. It just creates this extra energy, this buzz from a team that just happens to be playing downtown. And I think back to whenever I'm in St. Louis and going to the Cardinal games, which bought my first, my wife and I were going to opening weekend for the Cardinals at home opening weekend. So we're very excited about it. But I just think about how many times do I see Cardinal red when I'm in downtown, or how many times do you you're just like, well, yeah, I want that too. I want to be a part of that. Even if they're not great, people going to the game, it at least creates this energy. And I think that was just a great element of why it matters. Where you put the stadium is going to matter. So I'm for it, everybody. W Sports Podcast, Jimmy T's for it.
Yeah, I mean, well, look at Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, downtown Oklahoma City on the the Riverwalk there. It's a big populated area. Same with the Oklahoma City Dodgers, right in that same vicinity, and same with the Drillers, all downtown. And the thing is, they built around the sports complex too, because they brought them there, and then it's like it just started growing more and more as they started bringing these bigger stadiums and arenas in. And I think that's what great about having stuff like you said downtown. It just kind of helps it grow more than just kind of, oh well, we got some spaces, we can put a few more office buildings or whatever down here, make it fun.
So I hope that it works out, because also I would love to be within walking distance of a Major League Baseball stadium. That just seems unfair. So we'll see that. But let's go ahead and transition to some NFL news, if you're good with that, unless there's anything you think we missed outside the NFL world that was buzzing last week.
I mean, I'll just hit real quick. we had the spring breakout start, and I don't know if you caught some of the games. I think it's a great thing what baseball has done is trying to showcase the young up and coming talent for the MLB. I think hopefully to get people more excited about the game and not really hiding the big name prospects. And I mean, first game right off the bat, what do we see? Skeens versus Jackson Holiday. I mean, you couldn't write it up any better. And all Skeens does is just pump 101, 101, 102. And then you get Jackson Holiday, and he's like, man, I thought he was throwing 110 out there. So, I mean, it's been cool to see the games and see just all the young prospects going against each other. I think it's been a great idea from baseball to to start this up.
Yeah, a lot of energy around it. It was fun. I tuned in. I was like, oh, nice. Yeah, it was cool to have all that. I mean, it's a 7-inning game, so it's already going to be a little different, feel a little different. But I think that makes sense with the type of atmosphere that it is. It wasn't a gimmick. It felt like this is baseball. This is talent. Let's tune in. So
yeah, for sure.
Well, we mentioned one stadium. Let's briefly hit the next. Chicago Bears are staying in downtown Chicago, so that's a big deal, I think, for a lot of Chicago Bears fans. But they are going to have a dome stadium because I think they want it to be one of those super stadiums. I think that's what the phrasing was. Yeah. To be where they could do Super Bowls and all this other stuff. So it's weird to me when a stadium. I mean, the NFC North will have one team that is actually outside in the elements, and that's the Packers. Everyone else will be indoor stadium. And just throwing this out there, Vikings haven't really been to a Super Bowl that I can remember since they had a dome. I'm just saying, not causation there, but just food for thought. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you go from Soldier Field, not cool, build a new stadium because Soldier Field is pretty old, rundown. I get it, but man, you're doming it is just absolutely stupid.
Yeah,
no,
I
agree. If the Packers ever dome Lambeau Field, there will be a riot. I guarantee you.
Yeah,
the city of Green Bay will riot.
It would look so weird.
Yeah,
could never have the frozen tundra or anything like that. But yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen. But let's just throw this out here real quick. The last couple of Super Bowls, obviously with the Chiefs, they don't have a dome. The Rams one, they do have a dome. That was an ugly Super Bowl for the most part, but it did. Bucks, Chiefs, Patriots, or no, hold on, I'm having trouble. Or Eagles, Patriots, Broncos. How many times have you seen a dome team win? And there are quite a few domes in here. Outside of the Rams, who was the last one before the Rams?
Saints.
The Saints, that's correct. That's the first one I could think of. I forgot the Rams had a dome. So I'm just saying, maybe food for thought. Don't make your team too comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've said it. It's tough because you get these teams. You're in Minnesota, but you practice inside, you play inside. Same with Detroit. You practice inside, you play inside. You go into the playoffs and look at what happened with Miami. Yeah, they play outside, but they're not used to the cold weather. And even being up north, some of these teams that have the domes, you're not going to be used to the cold weather either. And you go and play a team like in Green Bay or Kansas City, and it's negative 14 degrees and the wind chill's like negative 30. I mean, it's a factor. Yeah, play outside.
And I think that was a big part of why Peyton Manning's and the Colts struggled so many times in the playoffs is because they would have to play the terrible game on the road, and the Colts and Peyton Manning, like, they were so good, but then came playoff time, it was like, are they going to be good enough? And that now that reminds me a lot of the Dolphins, who are ironically are not a dome team, but they are typically thought of. They really want that warm weather. They don't have the history on it. So I don't know. It's just a weird thought. The NFL is also pushing to change the kickoff rules. What do you think? Is it gimmicky, or you think it's a good change?
I think it's a good change because I think that you bring back the kick return game. It's basically gone with the new rules, the touchbacks and stuff like that. They're talking about implementing the UFL, their XFL rules, where it's not as dangerous. Having teams line up. This team's kicking from the 35, and they basically line up 5 yards apart, and then once the ball's touched by the kick returner, they engage. And so now you bring back guys that kick returners, just think if these rules that we have today were 15 years ago, Devin Hester wouldn't be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, it's true. Greatest returner.
So, yeah, I mean, I want to see them bring that part back because there is guys out there that, I mean, are amazing kick returners and their jobs are basically really nothing, maybe one or two a game where they get a chance at, returning the kick. Now gives them more incentives because now they go from the 25-yard line up to the 35-yard line. I mean, 10 yards is a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be. Honestly, I think for most fans, they would see it and they would be used to it almost immediately.
Oh yeah,
and that could potentially even bring a lot more excitement back to the game. It's. I watched a video on YouTube, and this guy, he did this. I think I sent it to you. The 1980s. He did one for the 2000s, and dude, I just loved it because it was a lot of the memories of like really leading into the football world when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of moments in there. I was like, yep, it just isn't the same. Like it was great.
Yeah.
There's also one I watched, side note, that it was just about the greatest part, the greatest moments in like our sports history, the last 25 years. And I thought the NBA, I was like, it peaked. It peaked whenever it was like 2012, 15 time period when the playoffs. And I was like, it was different in that atmosphere. So yeah. Quincy, Devin Hester was a problem. Yeah. What are we doing kicking to this guy?
I mean, Coach Green said it best. They are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook because what'd they do? They kicked at Devin Hester and all he did was take it back to the house and beat you.
Yeah. Remember who was the starting quarterback for the Cardinals that game?
I don't.
Matt Leinart.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Well, we talked a lot about some of the I'm going to say the notes, not necessarily the big time news when it comes to the football world. This was a wild. I mean, have you ever seen a free agency period was this crazy? This many shifting pieces.
I mean, it wasn't just them signing the trades. It was active from the get go. I mean, boom, right as it starts off, Russell Wilson, he's going to sign with the Steelers, and then it was just like everything else just started piling on. I mean, I don't know if I've seen as active early, quick as the season has started, because the biggest thing is that you had a good handful of teams that were like well above had a lot of money, a lot of cap space. And then you had a big portion of the NFL that were well below they didn't have no cap space. Mm-hmm. And so they're cutting people. And so it put a lot of big name guys out there and made it really hard for teams to re-sign people. And so it definitely started off with a big bang.
We'll start with the first domino that fell, and that was, of course, the Broncos released Russell Wilson, which I have a thought on that. And then he signs with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that happens initially. I mean, for Russell Wilson, is this a good landing spot?
Oh, yeah. I think culture-wise, it's a lot better landing spot than where he was last year or in the year before. Sean Payton and them, they did him no justice this year. He played great, and you pretty much threw him under the bus and benched him for no reason. You had a chance at the playoffs, and you just kind of threw him to the wayside. And he goes now to Pittsburgh, where you've got the Broncos on the flip for $38 million this year, and the Steelers get him for $1.2 million. I mean, you can't be mad. I mean, because even if he sucks, you're only paying him $1.2 million. It don't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good landing spot, and I think you're right on the Broncos side of it. Like, man, I did him no justice the 2 years that he was there. Nathaniel Hackett and Sean Payton were not. I mean, they just. And I get maybe Russell Wilson has some of the blame, but it was not. I mean, so much of it feels like the Broncos. So much so that I did this. I had this question I asked myself this weekend. Outside of Peyton Manning, since 2008, who's their best quarterback?
Man, they've cycled through a lot of quarterbacks.
I know. It's starting to get like Cleveland in there. It's getting rough. But outside who you got? Because I got one.
I can think of possibly two.
All right. And
one had 2 good years, and that was it. And it's Kyle Orton. Had a solid couple of years. And then Russell Wilson. I mean,
Yeah.
really, there's no other quarterbacks that. I mean, Brock Osweiler. Are we going to throw him in there? No,
Paxton Lynch? No.
no.
Hear me out. He won a
Tim
playoff.
Tebow.
He won a
Tim
playoff.
Tebow.
Won a playoff game.
Stop
No, no, no. I'm just saying. He kept
it. I mean,
playoff game, and then what did they do to him? See ya. I'm not saying that he was going to change the world or anything like that. All I'm saying is it's starting to look a lot like Cleveland. No.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely is.
The one guy that's won a playoff game outside of Peyton Manning, they let him go pretty quick, right? I'm just saying. Just saying.
Yeah.
Looks a lot like Cleveland over there.
Yeah, the amount of quarterbacks they've gone through is insane. I mean, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, you can say Tim Tebow, yeah, won a playoff game. You can't take that away from him.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to remember. Kyle Orton, was that was after?
That was like, it was before Peyton Manning.
Well,
so
yeah,
that was they
Jay Cutler, right?
They basically traded Jay Cutler and got Kyle Orton and some picks for him.
Well, we've been talking about the Broncos. We'll talk about the Bears. We're gonna keep talking about the Bears. The Bears traded Justin Fields to the Steelers because that totally makes sense for Russell Wilson. So like on paper, Russell Wilson, yep, this makes sense. Good culture. I'm gonna start. Then they go out and they get Justin Fields. How does this one good landing spot for Justin Fields, and then is this a good QB battle? That they're gonna have at this point.
Well, I mean, if you ask Mike Tomlin, he said there is no quarterback competition. Russell Wilson is our starter. Justin Fields will sit and learn from Russell Wilson for the year, which I think is a great idea. A guy that plays similar to him, just kind of uses his legs. I mean, early, prime Russ, whenever he would move around the pocket, run or whatever. I think it's a great person to learn from. But you're in the weird situation where you got to decide what you're going to do. He sits a year. He's going to be a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
So because I doubt they pick up the 5th-year option. I don't see them doing that. So maybe they try to swing something kind of like the Packers did with Jordan Love this last year, where they go, okay, you got a base salary of $12 million, and then you can make upwards to 20-something million in incentive wise. But I think it's a good spot for him. It's just crazy that you look at the value. I mean, if you asked anyone before the offseason started, most people thought worst you could do was second round, or third round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Second round pick was a hopeful, and there's some people that thought maybe back into the first round they could get a desperate team and get a late first round pick for him, and you get a conditional 4th round pick. More than likely it's going to be a 6th round pick, the way it sounded from Tomlin.
Yeah, you
basically got the same values that Patriots got from Mac Jones.
Yeah, half a pack of bubble gum.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's true or not. From what I read, is that they had offers for better, compensation, but they asked Justin Fields, "Who do you want to go to?" He said the Steelers. So if that's true, good for the Bears. Trying to facilitate something for him, because that was one of their big things, was we want to do right by Justin Fields, and hopefully that's something that they were able to do and wasn't just all conjecture, and that's the best they could get was a conditional pick and stuff like that.
I find it like as a wow. If that's true, wow. Because I don't know that any other NFL franchise is actually going to make the difference between there if they believe that they could get a 3rd round pick, right? Or a 3-5 combo. Maybe, but I don't know. Or 2 6 and a 7.
I don't know. From what it sounds like, I don't know if they were getting anything close to that. Maybe a 4th round pick, guaranteed at the most, is maybe what it sounded like. But yeah, it sounds like they did what they felt was great for him. Better for him future wise.
Yeah, Quincy talking about being behind Russell Wilson said Fields will need to learn how to throw a Super Bowl losing interception at the 2-yard line. Yeah, I mean that felt like there's a little bit of passion behind that memory.
I mean, can you really blame Russell Wilson though? I mean, can you really blame Russell Wilson for? Because we all know they should have ran the ball on that play, but I mean, and then Malcolm Butler made a great play. I mean, undercutting that a slant route in the end zone.
It was great. It's funny. All right. Well, Kenny Pickett originally at the beginning of this time last week had a home in Pittsburgh, and you would have looked around and said, "Holy cow, what's going on here?" But not anymore. He has now been traded. So Kenny Pickett is now with the Eagles to back up Jalen Hurts. So this is usually you get a backup that's somewhat similar to who you got starting. This is not even close. But is this a good? I don't know. I when I look at this trade, I don't see this winning really for the Eagles because I don't know that he's a really good backup. He's probably a decent backup, I guess, but he's so different. And then I think through Kenny Pickett, and I'm like, man, this sucks. Like, I'm definitely not starting now. And when my ticket is up here, where do I become Sam Darnold? You know, where I'm just gonna keep jumping around from team to team and never quite getting a chance.
Yeah. No, I thought it was weird because for me, the Eagles, is Kenny Pickett really enough to bridge the gap between a difference of a 3rd round pick and a 4th round pick? I don't think so. Just because, I mean, we've seen what Kenny Pickett can do. It hasn't been anything special. I mean, the guy, they've won games with him, and it wasn't because of him. And then, like you said, the difference in the way he plays and the way Jalen Hurts plays and the way that offense is going to be called and the way that scheme is going to be leaning so heavy towards Jalen Hurts because he's your starting quarterback, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I mean, the last few years made more sense for the Eagles, having Marcus Mariota there as the backup because Marcus Mariota's a pretty similar player to Jalen Hurts. So I don't know. I don't quite understand it a whole lot, but I guess they saw something and they thought, all right, that's who we need as our backup quarterback.
Yeah. So I don't know. Do you feel like the Sam Darnold is a decent comparison though so far?
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
I really liked Kenny Pickett coming out, but
but
he was a full senior. Like he wasn't a super senior or anything like that, correct?
He may have had a 5th year, but I'm not 100% sure.
I have a future thought when we go into draft prep that I have for quarterbacks. So I'm going to save that thought for a little bit later, but it's just a theory. All right, we'll keep moving down the list. We have the Eagles. They have a new running back. How about that? They got Saquon Barkley headed over same division, which I think is going to bring him twice a year. He gets to face the Giants. But who was it? Someone tweeted or whatever. They said, "Have fun." Yeah, the tush push. I thought that was a great smack talk from a guy who loves the Giants.
You're dead to me. I mean, come on, guy. Right. I mean, honestly, you can sit there and go, oh, well, you went to a rival. But he has the argument in going, they didn't offer me a contract.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they chose Danny Nichols over him.
Yeah. So how can you be mad? I mean, just because he picked the better situation of the teams? Or maybe, I mean, it sounded like it was down to the Eagles, Bears, and Texans. But if you look at those 3 teams, Texans, they are, pretty interesting because of CJ Stroud and what they were able to do. But you're also looking at the Eagles who just last year, not this last season, but last year, were the runners up in the Super Bowl. So I think typically you're going to take that team, and you're talking about a team that actually has an offensive line. He's never played with a legitimate offensive line. The guy has ran behind hot garbage his whole career and made a lot up, because of his ability. So you would think that his numbers have a good chance of going sky high next year.
Yeah, well, I think one thing to also, when you look at who the teams that he could have gone, you said it was the Bears. Kind of makes sense. It kind of makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah.
It's running back room, which we'll get to here in a little bit. Texans or the Eagles. I can't remember, where is he from? Where was he born?
I know he went to college.
So his whole life, that's what I was pretty sure he was from New York. But college was Penn State. Obviously, he's an East Coast guy, so I don't think that for him, really, Houston was a legitimate shot. And I don't think he wanted the Bears because the Bears have been mismanaged for the most part of our life. So I get the landing spot; it makes sense. So. I don't think he's going to be only doing the tush push. I think he's going to have a more successful of a season than what we saw this last year with DeAndre Swift with injuries and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Or if you had him first round draft pick for Barkley this year?
Fantasy wise, yeah. Okay. I think so. He's proven that he can stay somewhat healthy the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, he's behind an offensive line that's one of the best in the NFL. Even without Jason Kelsey, they still got a solid offensive line there. And then you got Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert, Devonta Smith. You've got an offense. He's not the main guy you have to look at, like he has been every year that he was in New York. So I think, yeah, this guy has a potential of maybe being up there in the conversation with CMC as the top fantasy running backs if he stays healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm still taking CMC if I have the chance, but I'm not if I get Saquon coming back. Now, let's continue on this world. There was a big signing that didn't make a lot of sense. It did make sense. It was surprising because I didn't see it coming. That's the right phrasing. The Packers signed Josh Jacobs and then release Aaron Jones. Packers also got another guy we'll get to in a second, but the running back room, are you feeling the exact same, better about the position, or are you missing Aaron Jones?
I mean, I hated seeing Aaron Jones go because really he was the biggest reason why we got the big push towards the end into the playoffs and had the big run, the good games in the playoffs. But from what it sounds like, this is just, reporting from, Green Bay guys and stuff like that. They went to Aaron Jones and they said, okay, we need you to take a pay cut this year. It was on the books for somewhere around $12 to $14 million. They said, we need you to take a pay cut, making about $6 to $7 million a year. He said no. And once that came down, they called up Josh Jacobs and they said, okay, here's the contract. And honestly, the numbers look, you're like, oh man, they're giving him $12 million a year. But the way they've structured it, it's basically a year by year deal where next year they can get out of it. Doesn't really cost them anything, dead cap or whatever. So it's a great deal. And on top of that, you're talking about a guy that's 3.5 years younger than Aaron Jones, was a former, rushing leader a couple years ago, may not have had to do it in Las Vegas, but is a really good receiving running back for as little as they threw him the football. So I think that it's kind of depending on who you ask, I think it's kind of more of a level, not really pushing him, oh, he's better than Aaron Jones, but it's also the Packers. They always look ahead and go, okay, typically when they move on a guy, it's usually the right time. And so whether or not that is, I mean, Aaron Jones missed the most games of his career last year. So there is those questions of, is the durability issue starting to come up?
Yeah. I think it was funny because you and I were texting at the beginning of free agency and some of the names that were already, moving around. And I was like, and you talked about the Packers being movers in the running back market. And I was like, what, re-signing Dylan? Like, that's what I thought that they were going to do, a move like that. And they are making a big move. And just for those wondering, well, how old is Aaron Jones? He's 29 right now. He's going to have his 29 year. He's going to turn 30 late in the season, but that is getting a little bit older as it goes into the running back world. But he's been a productive one. Any great spots where you'll find him this year?
Who?
Aaron Jones. Isn't he with Minnesota?
Yeah, he signed with Minnesota.
So I don't know. They don't have a running back when you look at things right now outside of him. So I mean, as far as playing time goes, he's going to have a good spot, but
he goes to a team that had a terrible run offensive line. The offensive line isn't good. They weren't able to really open up the run a whole lot. And you go from having a guy like Jordan Love to having Sam Darnold. So there's going to be a lot more pressure where teams are going to force Sam Darnold to beat you. So they're going to stack the box and not allow Aaron Jones to beat you. So I think his fantasy value definitely took a hit, a pretty solid hit fantasy-wise. And like I said, we'll see if he can stay healthy. And one thing that a lot of people are like, oh, he's injury prone. Well, before last year, the most games he missed in the season was 4. So not a whole lot really, but I think one thing that does get kind of skewed is the amount of games that people leave. They'll show that they started and they played in these games, but you also, because you look at a guy like Mike Williams, someone that we talk about, oh, he's always hurt. And then you go look at the games, like, oh, well, he played, 14 games. He only missed a couple of games.
Mm-hmm.
But how many games did he leave early because of injuries? And that happened, with Aaron Jones this year. Yeah, he played 11 games, but he also left 3 other games early because of the injuries. So, yeah, he essentially missed half the season. And that's other, cases, too, throughout the things with Aaron Jones. So we'll see. Durability, I think, is going to be the biggest question for him and for the Vikings fans next year. Can he stay healthy?
Yeah, well, he ended up getting $7 million on this deal, so he did end up taking a pay cut overall. But if the Packers wanted him to have 6, at least he made $1 million. So there's a silver lining.
Yeah, this is my biggest thing is that you get guys that go, "Oh, I want to retire with this team."
Yeah.
If you really wanted to retire, you would have took the $1 million less. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. For you that's made money throughout your career, what is $1 million more for you than staying with the team that's drafted you and you coming out and saying, I'm retiring, I want to retire a Packer, and then they come to you, yeah, you took a pay cut last year, but this is what the running back market is now.
Mm-hmm.
You're on the verge of 30. They're not going to want to pay a 30-year-old running back that just missed, close to half the season due to injuries, $12 to $14 million. So if you really wanted to retire a Packer, you would have retired a Packer. But obviously you didn't as much as you did want the extra $1 million.
Yeah. Well, let's stick with the some of the running back. There's so many new there's a lot of other signings we can always get to. Put those in the chat if you have one that you were like, hey, I'm excited about my team getting this one, especially if we haven't hit it yet. But looking at continuing in this running back market, so many different ones. Another one that we'll hit is DeAndre Swift goes 3 years, $24 million over the last. He's now in Chicago. I could not read what was written, but that's $8 million a year, so he's getting paid more. But going from Philadelphia to a backfield now with Caleb Williams back there. I mean, presumably Caleb Williams. If they take Drake May there, would any Bears fan be surprised? No. But more on that as we get into draft season. But good landing spot, good fit. I mean, he's just another NFC North team with a new running back.
Yeah, I'm not as big on Swift, I think, as a lot of people are. I think it's a solid running back, but I don't think it's like, oh man, you've got DeAndre Swift over. It has to be somewhat of an upgrade, but also you got to look at it on the other side. Who would you rather have, David Montgomery or DeAndre Swift? You didn't want to pay David Montgomery $6 million last year. You just paid DeAndre Swift $8 million.
Yep, for 3 years.
Yeah.
Or was it Titans? So would you rather have DeAndre Swift at 324 or 324 for Tony Pollard?
Swift.
Okay, so then I'm gonna throw one more out there. Derrick Henry 2 for 16.
Oh yeah, you give me Derrick Henry all day.
What are we doing, people?
Yeah, it may have been that the fact that maybe Henry didn't want to play for these other teams. I guess Tennessee, they basically threw him out to the Wolves, and they pretty much said we ain't going to re-sign him anyway. So we'll go with a guy like Tony Pollard that proved in the last 2 years that the guy is not, a legit number one running back, but we'll go ahead and pay him the same amount of money that Derrick Henry just got paid to go play in Baltimore. So
of those, Derrick Henry, we'll do all three: DeAndre Swift, Derrick Henry, and Tony Pollard. Who has more yards over the next 3 years?
I would say it's going to be Derrick Henry, but there's also going to be a fact that he's going to take somewhat of a hit because Lamar Jackson, we know, is going to run the football.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let me rephrase. Who scores more?
Derrick Henry.
Yeah. And aren't we in the game to score touchdowns?
Yeah.
What do we do? It's a great signing for Baltimore. That's desperately what they needed. The guys they had in the backfield that kept getting hurt. It was time. Great signing, especially 2 years.
Yeah.
It's a good deal.
Yeah. The biggest thing for them is the fact is they are going to have 3 new starters on that offensive line. They lost 2 in free agency, then they traded 1. So it'll be whether or not they can plug those holes and be as good as a running team as they were last year. But great draft to be able to fill those holes. So
It's true.
I think it's a great thing. And there's people like, oh, well, yeah, it's good, but they still, I mean, they led the league in rushing last year. So does it really matter? Well, look at the guys that they had. And on top of that, Lamar Jackson led that team in rushing yards last year, but he's a vast upgrade from Gus Edwards and who Melvin Gordon was there at some point. Justice Hill.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the other young kid that tore his ACL at the end of the season, but Derrick Henry clears all of them by a huge gap. So it is absolutely a huge upgrade compared to what Lamar Jackson's had in the run game ever.
It'll definitely be a way better for them overall. But it's a weird offseason for running backs. Austin Eckler also got a new deal with the Commanders for a little bit less money. I don't know if I would want to be there in DC playing for the Commanders right now with the state of that team, but good landing spot. No, what do you think?
I mean, it's an okay landing spot. I don't know if it's really any better than what he had, with the Chargers, but I think we've seen Eckler kind of fizzle out pretty good. I mean,
he looks slow this last.
Yeah, and he says it was because of injury. Maybe it was because of the injury, but he looked slow. His top end speed this year was 13 miles an hour.
Thanks.
Yeah, not good.
Matt can run 13.
I don't know. I have definitely not hit 13, but I'm not a professional football player.
Man, this makes me think I should go try and pull a hammy.
All I can think of is The Office now.
Oh, yeah, when he's on 31! 31! That was a car. Nope, that was my number. 31 miles an hour. 10 miles an hour faster than J.J. Watt and DK Metcalf. Yeah. All right, well, let's continue down the line. I mean, it's not an exciting signing, of course, but, new faces, new places. Bengals get Zach Moss, and they trade away Joe Mixon to the Texans. We talked about the Texans being the market for a running back recently.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird, like, how 18 months ago we thought they had found their guy in Pierce, and here we are now. They're like, nope, go get Joe Mixon. So who would you rather have, Moss or Mixon at this point?
I still take Joe Mixon.
Yeah, even at the cost is going to be more because it's Joe Mixon, right?
Yeah, I still take Mixon. Moss had a great half the season or whatever, how many games he played, because whenever Jonathan Taylor was out, guy was electric and played great, but then he got hurt and broke his forearm or wherever it was. I still take Joe Mixon because durability wise, he's still going to be able to do it, and he's shown it every year. He's a consistent running back. Moss has had one or half a season where you're like, oh, there's the potential that we thought we'd see in Buffalo. But yeah, I think what the Texans did this offseason was great. They made a team that surprised everyone, won the South, won a playoff game, and you made that team better around a great, potentially generational type quarterback.
Yeah. Well, any other news on the running backs or anything like that you want to hit? There's a lot of running backs. I keep going double checking. Did we get that one? Yeah, we got that one. Did we?
Yeah. We played musical chairs with the running backs this week.
We did. We really did. Who do you think this time next year we'll be saying like that was the best fit? Like they had the most success, the most momentum. Part of it's gonna be what team they're on, but who do you think were like that was the biggest win running back wise?
Running back wise, I think Saquon. I think Saquon, the landing spot was absolutely perfect because, like you said, he's never had offensive line. He's never had offensive weapons or a quarterback that compared to what he has there in Philadelphia. If they're able to get things things figured out, you got a brand new offense coordinator and Kellen Moore there, who we know likes to run the football.
Mm-hmm.
You bring him in, I think this offense will look vastly different than it did last year. Hopefully they are able to figure something out for them and make, up for the disappointing season they had last year. But yeah, I think that was a home run for them.
Which one's most likely to not even finish the season next year with their team and get cut?
Being cut?
Yeah. Should be this is bad fit, didn't work out, we're moving on.
Austin Eckler.
Yeah, that's who I would have picked too. It was the same two guys. I think if I was
Yeah.
going to pick someone else for best fit, it would have been Derrick Henry, just because I think he can bring a lot of success.
Yeah.
But definitely, I think Austin Eckler. He's on the. I mean, 2 years, 11 million. There's going to be some dead cap there, but man, I just be a
Yeah.
little bit worried. Just like you
Mhm.
said, if he's really lost that step, so because you got to have it, you got to have that step in the NFL.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead. We're going to look at some of the wide receiver news. So Colts, they kept their man Michael Pittman after I think they've tagged him, and then they worked
Yeah.
out the right. Okay, 3 years, 71 million. It's a pretty good deal. I mean, it's close. It's pretty close to Wiseman, Mike Evans, like his deal
Yeah.
with need money. So pretty good.
I mean, Pittman had a great year last year with a backup quarterback, and I mean, Pittman went out there and showed that he is a legit number one wide receiver. So I think it was great for them to be able to bring him back. Yeah, 23 million a year. I think it's a solid number. It seems like a pretty reasonable number because I mean, Mike Williams a couple years got 21 million a year coming off a less productive season than Pittman had this year. Christian Kirk, same thing, $20 million. So I think I think it was a great deal for both sides. Colts get him, I think, for a solid number and keep their number one.
Yeah, Pittman's a classic, indie guy too. So I mean, going to school at Notre Dame and now here, right? Is Notre Dame?
No, USC.
Michael Pittman's USC.
Yep.
Well, that's embarrassing for any Notre Dame fan because that is my bad. I could have sworn it was Notre Dame. We'll move on because of my mistake. The Jags, they go sign their guy Gabe Davis this year to replace Calvin Ridley, who we'll mention here in a second. Gabe Davis, 3 years, 39 million. I feel like the Jags really are good at finding those middle of the pack guys.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have 3 good games, 5 games where they have nothing, and then somewhere else in the middle.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like that signing at all. I mean, because now, really, you don't have a legit go-to wide receiver. Gabe Davis is so sporadic, up and down roller coaster. I mean, with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and had a great wide receiver on the other side to try to take some attention off him, and he never hit the potential I think that I thought for him to be a legit, solid number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, 13 million isn't so bad. I mean, it's pretty comparable to what the Jets paid for Alan Lazard last year and Mecole Hardman. So I think for them it's a solid deal because it's only 2 million more than 2 guys that. I mean, one didn't finish the team with the team that signed him that year, and the other one at the end of the season was a backup to 2 undrafted free agents. So we know Gabe Davis is more productive than both of them. So 13 million isn't bad, but I think for you trying to replace Calvin Ridley as a number, at least close to a number 1 wide receiver, I don't think you did it there.
I don't think so either. Now, listen, Calvin Ridley goes to the Titans, which who won this deal the most to you? Because I think Calvin Ridley, because have you heard the jokes on this, right? You definitely have heard the jokes.
Maybe. I don't know.
So people are saying that he woke up that day and said he looked up the odds of what team had the longest odds for him to sign with, and that's the one he chose because it's insane. What if he just put like 10,000 on Titans to sign me? He made some money. That is, I'm not saying he did, but I mean he has been known to. Not in the NFL. Well, it's always been his team. If he has, I'm just
That's funny.
For that Tennessee.
I couldn't. Yeah, I could not believe the contract when I saw that because a lot of what was getting reported was he was going to sign for somewhere around the 15 to 17 million dollars, and when the number came down, I was pretty shocked. And then you go back and think a couple years ago, they had a 25-year-old A.J. Brown ask for $100 million. Mm-hmm. You passed on that.
Mm-hmm.
Now you signed a 29-year-old Calvin Ridley for $92 million. What are we doing? Make it make sense. I mean, you passed on a young, legit number 1 wide receiver, stud wide receiver, to sign a guy that had a so-so year coming off of the suspension. And you paid him basically what the other guy was asking for. And you were okay passing on a 25-year-old guy and then taking on a 29-year-old guy who's hasn't performed. Last year didn't really perform like I thought. I thought maybe he was going to have a bigger year. I thought him and Trevor Lawrence were going to be a great match together, and Ridley really just kind of underwhelmed most of the season. Had some really good games, then had some games where you're like, is the guy even on the team anymore? So yeah, it was weird. I think $23 million a year for that guy, because you're basically sitting here comparing him to Michael Pittman, and you look at what those two did last year. Yeah, give me Pittman all day.
Yeah, it was weird. I think the storyline about him betting on himself is the best part.
That's hilarious.
Maybe if he gets suspended, you wouldn't be surprised. I'm just saying.
No, definitely not. We've seen it before.
Very true. Bears, they go out and they get their man Keenan Allen. We will have to pause. We need to pick some people's brains who are Bears fans, which we know a couple, of how they are feeling going into this draft, because they got to be excited with Caleb Williams as the potential number one overall pick. Keenan Allen, a new backfield, just wide receivers, a good tight end with Cole Kmet. I don't know. This Keenan Allen deal was surprising, especially because what was it? Was it a sixth or a fourth round? Fourth round pick. Yeah. Are you going to get a wide receiver in the fourth round with the talent that Keenan Allen has? I know he's older, but are you? Yeah. Especially if you're the Bears picking?
Nope. Yeah. Absolutely great trade for them, because like you said, you gave a fourth round pick, you ain't going to find a guy in the fourth round. The potential and upside that Keenan Allen can bring to you every year, and you're now surrounding your potential number one pick, probably Caleb Williams. You never know. Could be Jane Daniels, could be May. Who knows? They may shock everyone and go JJ McCarthy. But but at least you're building a team around them to have success, because you got DJ Moore, who had his best year ever last year. Keenan Allen had his best year ever last year. DeAndre Swift, you get another offensive lineman in this draft, shore up that offensive line a little bit more, man, you have a pretty good offense, because like Cole Kmet really showed out last year at tight end. And so you've got three really good receiving threats, a solid running back, a decent offensive line, and I think Caleb Williams, for me, would be an upgrade than over Justin Fields. So I think that you have some potential going here, and I know my dad is excited. He's like, do whatever you can just to trade Justin Fields. I don't care what we get for him, just trade him. Caleb's the guy. He thinks.
Yeah.
So
I do wish that your dad would have been like, get whatever you can, and then he gets the return. He's like, I mean, I would have gotten a little bit more, but
yeah. I mean, I think most Bears fans probably felt that sentiment, that we're like, oh, we gotta go Caleb, and then they get a 6th round pick. It's all we're gonna end up getting for the guy. Yeah, but I mean, they have the bones of potentially going forward, because their defense last year at the end of the season was a top 10 defense that last 6-7 weeks of the season. So maybe that next year, so they could push for a playoff.
And they were 7 and I think 10 last year.
Yeah,
that's what it was. So they were a competitive team. Now they have this pick because the Carolina Panthers traded away to get their boy Bryce Young, and right now that team versus the Bears, it is crazy to think of how big of a deal that trade ends up being, especially if Caleb Williams is as good as we think. And there's so many years that we're not going to know for sure. But remember what the Houston Texans did last year in their draft with those 2 quick picks, and they just got some staples, and how good that team looks right now, and the momentum. Chicago looks like this year's version of possibly the Houston Texans. So, and Bears fans kind of deserve it. Your dad deserves it.
I mean, it is
bad.
Yeah, I mean, they've been through they've had a couple good moments the last 20, 30 years, but other than that, yeah, it's been a lot of despair for that organization and fans.
Well, we have one more big receiver signing to hit real quick, and it's the Chiefs. The Chiefs got Hollywood Brown, signs for 1 year, $11 million. What around the area that people are talking about, they're not excited. He's not the big name that people thought. They feel like he's just MVS, and I was like, but he's better. But he's better. I keep telling people, like, well, he doesn't catch the ball as well as it, but he's better. He's not MVS. He catches the ball. He's fast. He's young. I was like, Odell still keeps chirping saying he wants to come to Kansas. The dude can't do it. And you know what? I'm just saying, I don't know that Odell is really that good of a wide receiver. Was he ever great? He was really, really good. I don't think he was ever the best receiver in the league. But we always think of Odell in those big, massive moments with those crazy grabs. But I don't think of him as the Devontae Adams type guy, the guy that's going to go out there or CeeDee Lamb last year. Now, I'm not saying Hollywood Brown is, but Hollywood Brown is going to be – I think he should fit really well with this team.
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking 2 years ago, him coming off a 1,200-yard receiving year. Mm-hmm. Injuries hurt him last year, but I think it was a great signing. This is a guy we talked about at trade deadline. I was like, man, the Chiefs needed to go out and trade for him. And for some reason, the Cardinals are like, oh, we're not trading him. He's not for trade. And then you just let him go for free. But he brings that, take the top off it. He actually has consistent hands, unlike MVS, where you're not like, oh, please catch it, please catch it, please catch it. And then he caught it, and you're like super excited because he actually caught one. I think that we're talking about a guy that can do everything that MVS did, but way better. And you get him for $11 million for 1 year. I think, yeah, sign me up if I'm a Chiefs or if I'm Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I want to see that needs to change for him in Kansas City is going to be getting into the end zone. His career high was 8 touchdowns, which he had back in 2020. Since then, it's gone 6, 3, 4. Now, the quarterbacks that he's played with have not been great quarterbacks, or they've been hurt that were good quarterbacks. So he's going to have an opportunity here to get in the end zone 10 plus times. And I think that would be a massive, massive success, where you look at the guys on this team outside of Rashee Rice, there wasn't a receiver that Patrick was trusting with a potential for 10 plus touchdowns in that season. So I think it's an improved receiving core, of course. I mean, than what they had last year. He's definitely better than MBS. He's better than Kadarius Toney. Get rid of him.
Yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't been cut yet, honestly.
It's got to be cap money stuff or whatever. Or they're still looking at shiny toys saying he can be good, but he doesn't want to be. Not bad.
That dude can't be good. I'm sorry.
All right, well, let's go ahead. We'll move over to some of the other ones. Like Sam Howell traded the Seahawks in a pick swap, so they have. I don't know. Is this? Do you think this is more of a backup play, or is this? Hey, we don't know. We think maybe we missed it on Geno. We didn't listen to the W Sports podcast and think 10 years is long enough to understand what a quarterback is. We thought this was it. He finally hit it at age 30.
I think it's kind of he could push Geno if we put him in the camp. I still have hope for Sam Howell. I still think Sam Howell could be a good NFL quarterback. Last year he got hit over 100 times, and that's not including, like I said, not including him having to scramble out of the pocket and get hit when he's running. That was inside the pocket. So when you get hit that many times, you're going to suffer as a quarterback no matter who you are.
Yeah.
You put him behind a better offensive line and a whole new situation compared to what was going on in Washington. I think that they saw what we knew was going to happen with Geno, and they're like, we need something to potentially push him or have a guy maybe for the future. And even if he does sit for a year, that's great for him. Sit a year, learn more. You're in a whole new situation, and I like I said, I love what the potential of what McDonald can bring culture-wise with that team, because he's always been around good culture, winning culture, and I think that he could bring that to Seattle, and I think that would be a great thing for Sam Howell. I thought, for me, honestly, I thought a place would have been really good for Sam Howell would have been the Jets. Sit behind Aaron Rodgers for a year or so, but it's also New York. The limelight is a lot bigger, so maybe the lights would have been a little too bright for him, but yeah, I think it's a good spot. Let him sit a year and learn.
Yeah. What do Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, those guys all have in common?
They didn't start right off the bat.
I'm just saying, maybe that's the play. Now, sometimes you're not going to have that option, right?
Yeah.
CJ Stroud, you're going to have to start. Caleb Williams, you're going to have to start. Justin Herbert, you're probably going to have to start. But would it be the worst thing if they didn't start?
Nope.
I'm just saying.
It's a great thing.
It's a patient game, and the NFL is not patient. I mean, you just flat out. So, other quarterback news: we had Kirk Cousins going to the Falcons, a massive deal, 4 years, $180 million, and $50 million right at the signing of it. He got $50 million plus another $50 guaranteed. Wow, big signing. Falcons trying to reload to retool to get better next year. How good of a landing spot is this?
I mean, it definitely makes them better. It makes the Falcons better because Desmond Ritter obviously wasn't the answer, and neither was Tyler Heineke. So, yeah, Kirk Cousins makes them better. There's just that's a big number for a guy coming off an Achilles injury at his age.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he now is almost $100 million more than Tom Brady in career earnings. Did you know that?
Yeah, the dude just knows how to make money. Whoever you're a quarterback, you study what he did to make as much money as he did because, yeah, he's been a solid quarterback, but he's never been the best quarterback and was always paid as the best quarterback.
Yeah. I did find it, by the way. Calvin Ridley went to the team that had the highest Vegas payouts available. Looked like Ridley got his early team bonus. Suspicious Calvin Ridley passed up the Jags minus 300, the Patriots plus 200 to take the slightly less money to go with the Titans, who were 1,800 to sign him. I'm just saying, it's a little.
You never know.
I think there was one other one. Oh, Rams got a backup quarterback, or no, Rams got protection for Stafford. Sorry, I don't remember who their backup quarterback now. Do they have one?
I don't even know who it is now, honestly.
Okay, well, they did get some protection. That line has been really brutal the last couple of years. And is this a good deal for them getting Jonah Jackson?
Yeah, I think Jonah Jackson is a good signing for him. He's been a solid guard for the Lions the last few years, so I think it was a really good signing for them. I think numbers wise, you didn't overpay for him, especially with what some of these other offensive guards got paid. Like Robert Hunt, the Carolina Panthers went out and paid the guy $100 million, and all he's been was a middle tier offensive guard at best his whole career. So I think number wise, I think it was somewhere around $51 million. I think it was a good signing for him, a solid guard to help keep Stafford upright.
That'll be good. The Giants, after they lose out on obviously Barkley, they go out and they make some more moves. Them and the Raiders, they're really trying to collectively put some pieces back together of some franchises that have been breaking down. Between the two off seasons so far, who has done a better job, the Raiders or the Giants, in your opinion?
I mean, I'll take Brian Burns over Wilkins. We were surprised Wilkins didn't get tagged. But I think the number that he got was too high for a guy that doesn't produce in the past, as a pass rusher. He's a great run, stuffer, but he doesn't put enough into the sack numbers. Brian Burns has been one of the best defensive ends, edge rushers. And that whole situation just shows Carolina has absolutely no concept of what's going on in football or maybe in reality at all with what they've done. I mean, 2 years ago, you had 2 first-round picks for the guy. The Rams offered you 2 first-round picks for him, and you rejected it, and you ended up getting a 2nd and a 5th for the guy. And basically it was what the Giants traded Leonard Williams for last year. They got a 2nd and a 5th for him. They traded the 2nd-round pick that they got from the Seahawks for Brian Burns. Heck of a deal. Paid him like he deserved to be paid. I don't know. What the Panthers are doing, Tepper, that whole situation there, I feel sorry for Bryce Young, what he's having to go through.
Yeah, it doesn't look good for the future of Bryce Young and the Panthers anytime soon. But, I mean, I imagine we would have felt the same way about Justin Fields recently, and now look at them. So maybe it just takes a little bit of time, but not with that setup, not with that front office. So it's been bad. Begin the offseason, we had the announcement really of the retirement of one of the best centers of all time with Jason Kelsey. This week, we got the retirement news of one of the greatest defensive tackles of all time with Aaron Donald. I mean, a guy that's going to warm up and practice against knives. I mean, this dude was different. Do you think he goes out as the best, one of the top 5 defensive tackles, or just how should we remember his career in the NFL?
I think there's the argument for him being the greatest at his position. I mean, look at what he was able to do. For a guy coming into the NFL, everyone's like, oh, he's undersized. He's not going to be able to, live in the NFL as a defensive tackle. And all he did was win 3 Defensive Player of the Years, was the best player in football for pretty much most of the seasons he was in the NFL. The guy really just he did everything. And Gino said it best a couple years ago. Whenever he's blitzing up the middle, and he's like, "Oh God," because he knew who it was coming at him. I better get rid of the football because I'm about to get murdered by Aaron Donald. It was a guy you didn't want to see in the backfield because you knew that one, you weren't going to be able to outrun him, no matter how much bigger he was than you. You weren't outrunning the guy, and when he hit you, he's going to hit you. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he's up there with some of the best, just pure defensive players ever. Not just at his position. I mean, I think you can make a great argument for him being the best defensive tackle to play in the NFL ever, but just one of the best defensive players, period.
Yeah. It's weird whenever these players go. He's not even that young or old, excuse me.
Yeah.
But what he does is absolutely insane on the football field. So the Rams, they're still going to bounce back. They almost made the playoffs this last year. So we'll have to see what does it look like for this team going forward to replace him. They still have competitiveness. Oh, we almost forgot. They still have a chance to be competitive in the division. Sorry, that's what I wanted to say. Yeah. But didn't talk about Mac Jones finding a new place, and all they had to do was trade half a pack of bubble gum for him too.
Yeah, I mean, that was a weird. I didn't see that one come. Oh, he's going to Jacksonville to sit behind Trevor Lawrence. You're a backup now.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, it's good for him to get out of there. Same thing, like Zach Wilson. You gotta get him out of there.
Yeah, that kid, the poor guy. Goodness, yeah.
Well, that is pretty much the show. The biggest thing to be looking forward to this next week is continued draft season coverage with the one and only Tubby. You want to see his breakdowns. The one you had about the interior defensive linemen, the defensive tackles, was one of my favorite ones so far. That is a good class, people. When I'm not going to tell you where it landed, but Sweat, where he is, if he's where he's at, this is a good class. I'm just saying. Go watch the video. You can find him on YouTube and any of the social medias that Tubby mentioned at the beginning. We're also, this week, are going to be doing our bracket challenge. So we'd love to have you all join here. Join it and see who wins. Every year there's someone who's random that ends up winning it, has the best pick. So last year, did you win it, Tubby? Or you almost did?
No, I didn't. I didn't win it last year.
I remember who won it. Maybe in one of our guests that we had on last year. I cannot remember. We'll have to go back and try to figure it out. But it'll be fun. See who can get the best bracket. I don't know. I'm going to pick all for the women's bracket. I'm just going to do all number 1 seeds. That's what I'm going to
do. 1 through 4. Mm-hmm. Go to the.
You're making it all the way. So
yeah.
And then South Carolina wins the whole thing. Yeah.
Good chance. Very good chance.
2 weeks ago, they had the girl that sent him to the actual game, the championship game in their conference. They she had never made the 3 all season. Did you see her shoot?
Yeah.
Made a good on her for being willing to shoot that ball. It doesn't look like she normally shoots threes. I'll put it that way. But banked it in from straight up. She called it glass. It would have been great.
Yeah, and you can tell too that Tennessee was like, we ain't gonna guard her. She hasn't made a 3 all season. She hasn't even attempted one. We're good. We don't have to cover her. Oh no, she banks it in.
Yeah. So I will put the link to the thing in the description of the show. So when we post the show, make sure you download it so you can go ahead and join the bracket. We'll also put in all the social media videos, stuff like that we do this week, because March Madness is officially, well, it's already here, but the tournament is officially starting this week, I think on Tuesday. Yeah, on Tuesday is when the first 4 is. But you want to get your picks in because you want to be a part of it. But Tubby, any final words?
I'm ready for the madness.
Let's go. Ready for the madness. The Debbie Sports Podcast. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week.
See ya.